Eucharistic miracle. Place of the miracle, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Years of the miracle, 1992, 1994 and 1996. In 1992, after the Mass of Friday, May 1st, while preparing the Eucharistic reserve, a Eucharistic minister found some pieces of consecrated host on the corporal. Following what the Church prescribes to do in these situations, the priest had them put in a vessel of water, which was then placed in the tabernacle to wait for them to dissolve. In the following days, several priests went to check it and they realized that nothing had changed. 7 days later, on Friday, May 8th, they opened the tabernacle and saw that the host fragments had become a reddish color that looked like blood. The following Sunday, May 10th, during the 2 evening masses, several small drops of blood were noticed on the pattens with which the priests distributed communion. On Sunday, July 24, 1994, during the children's mass, while the Eucharistic minister took the pyx from the tabernacle, he saw a drop of blood running along its side. On August 15, 1996, during the Mass of the Assumption of the Most Holy Virgin, a consecrated host, which fell to the ground during the distribution of communion, had to be placed again in a vessel of water so it would dissolve. A few days later, on August 26, a Eucharistic minister opened the tabernacle and saw that host had transformed into blood. It was on the 5th of October 1999, that I went to Buenos Aires to commence my investigation upon the invitation of Dr. Ricardo Castanon. We interviewed the priest, Padre Alejandro Pezzet and other witnesses and took samples. I documented on film the essential parts of my entire investigation. My approach was to prepare the case as a lawyer who would go before a judge. On the 21st of October 1999, we presented a sample for DNA testing to Forensic Analytical Genetics Laboratory in San Francisco. On the 1st of May 2000, they reported to me that whilst there was the presence of human DNA, no human genetic code could be obtained. This was unusual. Different scientists had different opinions. Who was right? I proceeded to study forensic pathology and cell biology. For more than 1 year I researched hundreds of histology images and eventually found forensic pathology and cell biology. For more than 1 year I researched hundreds of histology images and eventually found one that resembled the Buenos Aires case. It was inflamed human heart tissue due to a compromised blood supply. I realized that when the heart suffers trauma, it looks very different from standard textbook images of normal heart tissue. The scientists that I had engaged thus far were not experts in heart trauma. The next step was to find a world expert who was not only a forensic pathologist, but also a cardiologist. I found him in New York, Dr. Frederick Zugib. On the 20th of April 2004, a leading Australian investigative journalist, Mike Willsey, accompanied me to New York to present Dr. Zugib with my case samples. Dr. Zugib had been told nothing of the history of the sample or my research. In our presence, as I filmed, he microscopically examined the been told nothing of the history of the samples or my research. In our presence, as I filmed, he microscopically examined the samples. The only true statements made by Dr. Zugib are contained in what I recorded and documented at that original meeting. They have since become historic. I am an expert on the heart. The heart is my business. This is flesh. This flesh is hard muscle tissue, myocardium, from the left ventricle wall not far from a valvular area. It is the muscle that give the heart its beat and the body its life. This hard muscle is inflamed. It has lost its striations and is infiltrated with white blood cell. White blood cells are not normal found in heart tissue. These cells are produced by the body and they escape from blood and infiltrate the tissue to address trauma or injury. I asked the theologian what this could possibly mean in the context of Jesus. He said that Church teaches that the Eucharist is a memorial of the passion, death and resurrection of Jesus. When we receive communion, we are receiving Jesus at the moment of his resurrection, 3 days after his passion. What astonished Dr. Zugib was that the white blood cells in the heart tissue were in such a good state of preservation despite having been kept in distilled water for 3 years. The good state of preservation is what might have been expected if they had been placed in a preservative like formalin. It would be impossible for the white blood cell to be present in the sample if the sample had been kept in water. On the 26th of March 2005, Dr. Zugib sent me his formal report on the findings. In part it reads, the tissue of the heart had undergone degenerative changes of the myocardium possibly due to an obstruction of a coronary artery that supplies nutrients and oxygen to an area of heart muscle. This obstruction may be the result of a severe blow to the chest over the heart. Mike Willis summed up the case this way, When a communion host, which is bread, bleds and becomes living human heart, it is more than just a wow moment. It is a traumatic day for science. Why traumatic? Because for the first time ever life has come into existence from inert non-living matter. What has been revealed in my ongoing work is unprecedented. It provides, for the first time ever, a scientific basis for the Catholic Church's belief in 1. God is the sole recorded creator of human life. 2. Jesus is truly alive, resurrected and present in the communion host. 3. Jesus giving us his heart in the Eucharist. Taken from www.miracleeucharistic.org.